Salam and peace. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and you're watching Galaxy 19 satellite for Muslim Network TV. Muslim Network TV is always there 24/7 on Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and our own website, muslimnetwork.tv. 70 million people have voted in America today. And election days is still 1 week away. That is half of the total people who voted in 2016 elections. So a lot of people are voting. Anxieties are high about election day. Everybody knows we are not going to get results, but people are getting ready. Some getting ready to defend democracy. Some are bringing gun to the defense. Let's see where it goes. But that raises a lot of questions about peacemaking. So activists and armed militias are preparing to quote unquote protect democracy. What can you do if armed people confront your peaceful demonstration? What can we do when police attacks peaceful protesters? What is the history of peacemaking in this country? So we will discuss these questions, a whole lot about peace and peace movement, and what can you do? So stay tuned, and the person who will help us to discuss all of that is Tom Hastings. Welcome to Muslim Network TV, Tom.
Salam.
Peace be with you. Tom Hastings is Director of Peace Voice Program at Oregon Peace Institute, and he does training in these areas. Now, tell me why it is Oregon who is still going on through demonstration while everybody has calmed down. What is wrong with you people?
You want the short list or the long list?
Well, start with somewhere.
So, yeah, it's a problem of splintered leadership. And this is a challenge to all of us as we enter sort of the next phase. I mean, there's no such thing as a cessation of the movement to protect Black lives as we see in Philadelphia right now. But what has happened in Portland is that there's been a splintering of leadership, and some of the African-American leadership are people I've worked with for a long time. They're very even keel, and they're very assertive, but they're not aggressive. They're good leaders, in my view, and they run a social movement very strategically. On the other hand, we have some local leadership who are inexperienced, who are often, they've been traumatized and in their own personal lives, oftentimes with regard to racism. And that personal trauma is something that informs how they lead. And so we've seen that group of people at night in very angry fashion continue to confront police and throw things, etc. I will just say one thing about what's going on, though, on an ongoing basis. One of the places that they have targeted is the headquarters of the police union. And I completely understand why they would do that, because the police union in Portland, as in so many other places, absolutely sticks up for and defends any behavior that any of the police officers make. So this understanding by the community that it doesn't matter what a police officer does, the union will stick up for them. And this is a big problem. The union does not use sort of any normal benchmarks that the community can relate to in whether or not they decide to go to bat for somebody. So the idea of focusing on the headquarters of the police union, which is only a few blocks from where I live, to me is very understandable. But I also have to add to that, despite the late night actions there and the confrontations not done peacefully, done very, full of anger, and not just anger like Dr. King might have talked about angry, but anger that has led to arson, etc. One thing that I know, because this is where I live, they have not touched any other buildings around them. There are small businesses. There's an African-American beauty shop right next to it. There's nothing. There's no plywood on any of those windows. Nothing has been touched. So as much as I disagree with the spray painting and throwing things, etc., in this moment, as much as I think that that's not very strategic, I do have to note that they are very careful to completely have a laser focus just on that one police building. There's nothing done to anybody else, and the residents in the neighborhoods around. We are not concerned that anything can jump off and happen to us.
Okay, so there are two groups, but one of the group who is doing these rather aggressive things is also strategic about what their focus is. So is there a dialogue between both of these leaderships?
So there is some bad blood. I've known these people, all of them, many years. Well, there are some new people, some younger people I don't know nearly as well. But the main factions are led by people who I have been very close to on different sides, and it's more than two groups. There are several, and this is a problem that we're facing in our upcoming election protection too. We have to have the agreement that we are all acting together. We have to have unity. This is what we see wherever we have seen the people power basically stop election theft. That is because that there's been unity, and they have not objectified police or soldiers. In fact, they've reached out to them and said to them, look, you're the victims and so are we. We have to unite. And there's been nonviolent discipline, so that in those struggles around the world, from the Gambia to Ukraine to Serbia to Chile to the Philippines, this is what we've seen each and every time. Where these things have failed, there's usually a breakdown of nonviolent discipline or a factionalizing of the opposition. So we can learn lessons from the BLM movement right now, and say to everybody, look, we're in this to win it. This is a time for unity. We can go back to arguing with each other later, but let's win this one.
There is an organization in Portland called Don't Shoot Portland. They got tear gas banned, but then the police has started using rubber bullets and other types of things, flashbangs and what they call non-lethal or quote less lethal weapons. So are those things still going on, or there is a sort of a peaceful situation right now?
It's not as intense right now, and there's a big difference to me between the tactical victory that you're talking about and the strategy. And the strategy, and I know the leadership and the founder of Don't Shoot Portland, and the strategy of going out late at night is just simply not an adaptive one. And I hope that we can agree as we head into this defending democracy season that we should try to keep our actions. We want everybody to be safe. That to me is the overarching goal: is keep everybody safe. Do your actions during the daytime. That puts everything in the light of day, and it makes everything much more transparent. It reduces the level of fear. As soon as you make the police fearful, that's when the flashbangs and the so-called less lethal. People are getting hit in the face with these canisters of pepper gas, etc. So this stuff is absolutely brutal. And if you lower the level of fear all around, your chances of success and your chances of the community being much more safe really are elevated. They go up quite a bit.
Portland, along with Seattle and New York, are labeled as three cities by U.S. Justice Department calling quote unquote anarchist jurisdiction. And now these three cities have filed a lawsuit to take away that labeling. What does that labeling means, and what gave this honor to Portland?
I'm sorry to laugh. I just have to laugh at the credulousness of the Department of Justice. I know I've been an organizer in this town for 20 years, and I have worked directly with the sort of precursors to Antifa or the anarchists. They used to call themselves the Black Bloc, etc. And I know that there is a background rate at any given point in Portland of roughly 250 to 350 people who subscribe to that method of action. They're the tiny minority of activists in our town. And they always have been, they always will be, but they do have a flair for doing great big acts of rage, and they're very dramatic. So they manage to get themselves in the headlines for better or worse. One of the things that I tried to caution folks on, and of course, when you're dealing with an emotionally driven agenda, you can't really use strategic logic, and you certainly can't use ethical or moral arguments. To me, what has always worked in the past, when I've had the time to go out and literally meet one-on-one with the leadership of these leaderless movements. I mean, they call themselves leaderless, but there's leadership. It's always the dominant personality. And to let them know, look, I'm working with a coalition. For example, we work with the Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon. That includes all the Abrahamic faiths, but also includes Buddhists, Hindus, et cetera, et cetera. So I've been a good friend and a fellow activist with the executive director of that organization for many, many years. And they have about 70 congregations are active members of that. And so when they get involved, that's just one example of how you bring out lots and lots of people. But they will not come out if your demonstrations are proving to be frightening, are proving to be an attractant to, frankly, misbehavior, both on the part of these so-called anarchists, but then that brings out the alt-right. In our town, they're called the Patriot Prayer. Obviously, nationally, they're called Proud Boys. But it also brings out the sort of SWAT-prepped police. And so to build a movement that is going to attract the numbers of people that we need, it has to be a movement that separates from all of these combative factions. We did that in Portland when 18 years ago, we were working to stop the invasion of Iraq. We built a movement in this town that cut out all of the negative forces that were all around us. They were still there, but they just didn't come to our demonstrations. And because they didn't come to our demonstrations, because of the work we did ahead of time, then what we did 3 times in a row, we broke the state record for political demonstrations. We did so in October of 2002, in January of 2003, and in March, early March of 2003. Each time that we went out, people experienced a much more agreeable invitation from how it went the time before. And so a fellow from Eugene, Oregon, and I trained in about 90 peacekeepers. And we were all over the place, making sure that everybody was safe, making sure that tensions were lowered, that conflicts were de-escalated, and that when something did jump off, that our peace team was there to isolate it and then to do the work with the local, whatever media were present and whatever police were present, to make sure that everybody knew, okay, this person who is doing this act of vandalism or whatever, they're not associated with us. And you know that because up front, ahead of time, you know that the organizers of this, including ministers, imams, rabbis, etc., they were all saying, this is our code of conduct. This is what we require of everybody who comes today. And making those requirements and a code of conduct that was then nonviolently not enforced, but the peace team would basically remind everybody, this is what is expected of you. If you can't do this, please step away for the day. And so all of this de-escalates, and it also invites many, many people. So labor unions, people of faith, we had huge numbers who were coming to us in increasing numbers, and this is what we need to do again.
You're watching Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and I'm talking with Tom Hastings, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Adam. You remember me? I appeared in so many episodes that Sound Vision has put on the market. No matter what. Hey, what's happening? Hey, oh, sorry. Lockdown is what it is. Well, continuing here. In this lockdown, Sound Vision never stops thinking about you, the viewer. We'll have to get back into production again, online and inline. Everybody in their own space, even me. Although I'm stuck with Lanisa.
Salam! Salam! Salam!
I know, you were shocked too. Well, let me continue. This is what I was going to say. Salam! 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 Cut! 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 Finally, I get my own screen time again. Thank God. And so we invested in new equipment to bring you even better production with new songs and new singers and animations. Well, here are a few clips. And Sound Vision has brought all this into your home, making Islamic values and teachings easy. And if you know me, Adam, a multi-talented actor, well, sometimes I'm an actor and the reporter and the... Oh, that's enough. Let's move on to the next section. Well, you can watch these new episodes on our new app at www.adamsworldapp.com. We have previews happening every day on Muslim Network TV. Sound Vision has been serving generations, moving and changing with the times. We are all faithfully connected. That is a huge blessing. Your donation helps keep these programs available now and into the future. We take this job of helping tomorrow's Muslims today seriously, and you should too. Today, we need your help. Children absorb and learn from everything they encounter. Make that wholesome, positive, grounded in our faith. Together, we can accomplish our goal of raising better Muslims, better neighbors, and better citizens. Please donate generously. It's an investment in our future. But to finish, let me tell you, there are new scripts of my new mission. And it is something that I enjoy talking about. My new mission is space. Houston, we do not have a problem. Salam, see you soon.
Welcome back to Muslim Network. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. I'm talking with Tom Hastings. Tom, in our conversation, you mentioned different terminologies and different sides. You mentioned anarchists, that you say there are not more than 300-400 of them. And then you mentioned right-wing militia. So is it correct to say, right-wing, not militia necessarily, but they have this term, Intifa, and they apply it all over. And then there was a person who was allegedly shot, a right-wing militia person, and then he himself was shot by police. And he declared to be part of Antifa, if I'm saying that word correctly. So is somehow this whether Antifa is ideology in our organization, are these anarchists which you're talking about somewhat connected with them, subscribe to their ideology, or they maintain a network?
Yeah, there's efforts. Yes, they're the same people. So, like I said, they went through a progression. Sometimes they're calling themselves anarchists. Sometimes they say Black Bloc. That's a little bit outdated now. Now they're Antifa or Antifa. I agree with you. I'm not sure how to say it either because I hear it both ways. But they're essentially the same folks. Now, there have been recent efforts by people on the Antifa side to say, if you're against fascism, you're part of us. And I understand that effort to sort of make a bigger tent for themselves. But in terms of actual behavior on the streets, that's kind of what I'm talking about. I certainly consider myself an anti-fascist, but I'm not part of Antifa. And they're not an organization, although they do like everybody else now, they're able to mobilize on social media very effectively, even though they are, they say we're not an organization.
Now, the other group, which what is it called? Gold Boys?
Yeah, locally they're calling themselves Patriot Prayer, but nationally it's more Proud Boys. Yes.
So Proud Boys stand, and President Trump ordered them to stand back and stand by. So locally they have a different name, but they are connected with that national group.
Absolutely, yes.
So how long they have been in existence, and what is their ideology? Do they have same level of confusion as Antifa, or they are little more clearly defined?
They're interesting. they're very insulting to Islam, and they do so to provoke. They have, I think, frankly, a little bit more strategic understanding of how to, quote, sell themselves to the public, in the sense that they want to provoke Antifa into doing something to them, and they want to be able to frame themselves, frankly, as Trump often does or always does, that he's the victim, and that's how they like to frame themselves, even though they come out with literally the most insulting T-shirts I've ever seen in my life. So we had to, when we were asked by a group of refugees and immigrants to come in and be peacemakers on the anniversary of Trump's Muslim ban, they called a demonstration and a vigil, and we of course were happy to go out and stand with them, and the so-called Patriot Prayer or Proud Boys showed up, and they were all wearing a very insulting, obscene T-shirts, and they were different from each other. And I mean, I looked at all of these; they're all in, very expensive-looking print jobs, and all customized individually. And I thought, well, this group has really got a great T-shirt budget to come out. And here was the thing with them, is that they were provoking, and as soon as, and of course, because they were there, then Antifa showed up, so that those of us on the Portland Peace team, we just said, you know what? Normally, we don't literally put ourselves in between people. We try to de-escalate from off to the side of people so that we don't feel like they don't feel like they're being threatened by us. But in this case, we just immediately went into interposition right between these belligerent parties, because we were very crowded. There were many hundreds of people crowded into a confined space, and everybody was like nose to nose. Obviously, it was pre-COVID, and it was, I mean, we were packed in. So we angled over to place our bodies in between, because this was about to jump off, and had it jumped off, it would have gotten very bloody very quickly. And we knew that the police were very nearby. We had asked the organizers. It's actually the main organizer was a refugee from Bhutan who I had known as soon as he came to the United States. And I really like this guy, and we've worked together a bunch. And I asked him to please ask the police to stay completely out of sight. I know that they're going to be nearby. We can't control that, but please have them not be in sight, because that provokes Antifa. And as soon as Antifa starts yelling and throwing things at the police, then the alt-right will jump in to, quote, help the police. And then everything is a big street brawl. And I knew that not only were innocent, unarmed immigrants, asylees, and refugees the bulk of the crowd there, but they had brought their children. There was a little stage where the children were singing and dancing. So we just interposed. And fortunately, the police did not show themselves, because we were able to de-escalate everybody. And it was very interesting, because even though we were trained in de-escalation and peacekeeping, it turned out by far the most effective de-escalation expert of the day was a tiny little young woman from Iraq, a refugee who came up and started talking to the sort of alpha male Proud Boy or Patriot Prayer, and he was live streaming with himself with a selfie stick. So he was the show, and he was being as provocative as possible. I had tried to de-escalate him, and he just basically blew me off, because he had to show to his viewing audience that he was in control of everything. And so when this young woman stepped in, I didn't see her coming, but she took him out of play for about 45 minutes. it was absolutely amazing. She indicated to him that she wanted to know more about why he believed what he did. He was wearing a T-shirt that said, "Stop being a Muslim." And so here comes this young Muslim woman, very earnest, very obviously very sincere, and that was the expression on her face. And he actually talked to her, told her about his views and why he had these views. And then, because she so obviously listened to him, and she asked occasional questions that were like reflective listening, showing that she was actually paying attention, and she was validating him as a human being without validating his arguments. And he became more and more sort of hooked into this conversation with her. He finally turned off his live streaming and asked her a couple questions about being a Muslim. It was the most amazing de-escalation I've ever seen in my life. And this is the kind of thing that we try to promote, we try to train to. I asked her, after everything had settled down, everybody started to leave, about 3 hours later, I said, "So can you please join our Portland Peace Team?" And she said, "I would love to, but I'm about to enter medical school, so I really can't." So it was just an amazing illustration of what we can do when things look really hopeless.
So that is just amazing story. Somebody who has zero training, most likely, is adopting naturally some active listening techniques,
Yes.
validating the humanity of the other person, and that person start listening to her.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just a good exercise. Now I wonder where that proud boy stand today.
They're much more mellow when they see us show up. When they see, we wear little blue vests because actually the research shows that blue is the most calmative color. So we understand why.
Do you have permission from the United Nations to use that color?
No, we are unarmed. We are not a UN peacekeeping team because they are lightly armed, but we're not an official organization. We're just part of what is called the Shantasena Network in North America, peace teams from coast to coast and in Canada.
Okay, so they are more behaving when you guys show up.
They are, and because they actually know that we will protect them too. We have, so for example, we are asked every year, and we're very happy to go out for Gay Pride. They have a huge march in Portland, and when these people show up, their mission that day, they don't talk about Islam that day, they just hate gays. And they come out with very hateful messages to the LGBTQ trans community, and they stand all together, all these Patriot Prayer, and basically have a loudspeaker with a very powerful megaphone, and start broadcasting their saying that this is, you're sinful, you should stop doing this, etc.
Are these people grounded in churches? Do they have connection with any Christian teachings, or grounded in their regular religious practice, or they're just proud of whatever they think they are?
They call themselves Christians. They do not have any brick and mortar church anywhere that I'm aware of. I guess that ministry would be what they regard as they're proselytizing in a way that is never going to work for them, but it's what makes them, I think it's cathartic for them. That's my guess. I'm not a psychologist. That was my father. but that's my guess about some of their motivation, is that it helps work out whatever trauma that they've had.
You're watching Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. I'm talking with the peacemaker, Tom Hastings, and we'll be right back after these messages. You're watching Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and I'm talking with Spencer Reed, and we'll be right back after these messages.
My wife, she's a professor at the University of Cincinnati, who's Catholic, and by her watching and listening to our 3-year-old son watch Adam's World, she ended up taking Kalima Shahada. She embraced Islam because she learned so much about Islam and the other prophets. It really affected our life in a great way, and because of Sound Vision and Adam's World, we're Muslims.
I took my Shahada 15 years ago, and I actually am from a rural part of Ohio. And so I found the catalog for Sound Vision, and I ordered the tapes and the CDs and the books, and I used those, and especially for my little daughter, that's how we basically learned our Islam, and Islam entered our hearts through the wonderful works of Sound Vision.
Okay, assalamu alaikum, brother. I just want you to know that I love the Sound Vision website, that a lot of times when I'm looking for information, especially as it relates to homelessness, domestic violence, and women issues, I go to that website, and then I see what you've written, and then I copy and paste it, and spread the word, because the wisdom is there, so I can't do any better than what Sound Vision has already done.
Sound Vision is our survival guide. It is the organization that provides skills for Muslims how to survive and thrive in this community here in the U.S.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Anam, I'm in 11th grade, and I grew up with Adam's World, and what it taught me was unity, respect, and love for the Muslim Ummah.
Adam's World is the greatest show ever made. Take me to the Kaaba, man. I love that puppet.
Assalamu alaikum!
Open up your eyes.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe, and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
Welcome back to Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. I'm talking with the peace leader, Tom Hastings. Now, you mentioned a very interesting situation in which these right-wing militia people showed up who are President Trump appreciates and commands them to stand by, and Antifa people showed up. And a normal instinct, which I will have is, oh, well, ask police and allow them to come in the middle of two warring groups. But you went very different. You tried to keep police away. That means a peacemaker or peacekeeper should have insight of the whole local situation. Because you thought Antifa is going to start reacting to police instead of trying to stop the anti-fascists from their vocabulary or militia groups, and it will create a chaos. So knowledge of where you are operating. So it seems that peacekeepers need to be well grounded in their community and know the politics of the situation. Don't you agree?
Yes, and one of our protocols on the Portland Peace Team, and this is true for almost every peace team I know about, both nationally and internationally. We can, for example, a friend of mine, Sami Rasuli, is founder of Muslim peacemaker teams. He's originally from Najaf, Iraq. And one of the protocols for all of our peacemaker teams, or at least the ones I know about, is we don't go out unless we're invited, because we are not peace vigilantes. We are in service to whoever calls us, and that our protocols include the organizers who invite us need to be able to tell us a couple of things. Number one, that they are promoting their event as nonviolent, and they expect nonviolent behavior by all the participants. Number two, that they will announce from the stage or with their microphone at some point that they have invited us there. Because we have no authority. We are not a governmental organization. We have no authority other than the moral authority given to us by the leaders of that event. So that when we go out, then we're able to remind everybody who needs reminding. This is what the organizers expect of us today, all of us. So please honor and respect their hard work, because it's a lot of work to bring out hundreds or thousands of people into the street. Now, one thing that means, though, is that we do not just run around and interject ourselves every time that something jumps off. That is not our job. That's not, we are then castigated pretty much by everybody. And we're not interested in being that kind of sort of roaming, autonomous group of people who interfere. We need to be invited.
Okay, so so in terms of a street protest, you need to be invited to volunteer your services. But in terms of dialogue, I wonder if there is any effort for a bunch of Antifa people and bunch of Proud Boys brought together to have conversation between them.
That is such a great question, and it's so important. It's something that I actually proposed it at the demonstration that I talked about a few minutes ago, and I gave this is what I teach at Portland State University, and so I took out my Portland State University business card and I handed it to the alpha male on the alt-right group, and I said I would like to set up a dialogue at campus in a safe environment. And he took my business card and threw it on the pavement. So I didn't make very much progress that day. Fortunately, that young woman from Iraq was there. But you're right. That is such a next step. I think along those lines, we need to start thinking about moving it away from the street, which is, I think, part of the thrust of your question. How do you move it away from the street and into a much more safe environment, an environment that is facilitated, an environment where people can engage in real negotiations together and seek a deeper context with each other. And I think all the sort of conflict parties, the police need to be involved, all the factions of the social justice community need to be involved, and the far.
Tom, don't you think that if the moving people away from a street is going to kill the movement itself, because the movement which started because of Mr. Floyd's brutal murder on the street, it is because of the street that America is talking. It is because of the street. So peacemaking on the streets in a safe and peaceful manner is extremely critical. Now we're talking about protecting democracy. Some people will be protecting democracy through peaceful, nonviolent means, and some people will be protecting democracy with guns in their hands. Is still trying to be peaceful. So streets cannot take cannot be taken away from the conversation and a dialogue. But I do understand that conversation, if they need to sit down and talk, it should not be in any heated situation. So I do understand your point. But another dialogue, you see, when streets are active, and this is about to happen. I mean, elections are 1 week away. Anxieties are already high. Nobody is expecting result that evening, except it is possible that Biden or Trump might just announce preemptively they have won the election. And other side, who is going to be equally passionate at the loss that they have been beaten out, they're going to do something about it. Everybody knows that. I mean, we're praying and asking God Almighty for His mercy on our country during this pandemic. That pandemic is lifted and it doesn't go to the violent route, but it's about to happen. So there are two very critical questions which I like you to dwell on, because you teach that, you have experience in this, you know the street, you know the parties, that either peaceful demonstrator will be confronted by armed militias or by the police. So what, and these have been the two things which has been part of the violence picture in last 1 year or so, or even before. So people confronting or seeing or being intimidated by armed militias, what options do they have for keeping the peace instead of just running away for their life?
Yeah, that's a great question and a great contextualization of it. And I guess when I said get it off the streets, I just meant get the violence off the streets, because you're right. We will be in the streets, but to me, this is a time to quickly proliferate peace teams that can get out there and be that buffer. What has happened since we started our peace team officially in 2012 is every time that we've gone out and been invited to go out and have gone out to accompany any group where both the so-called alt-right, the Patriot Prayer, and Antifa have shown up, every single time we have done a better job than the police in keeping the peace. That's our track record here in Portland, and I don't see any reason that track record can't be met and exceeded across this country. But there is no time to lose. So what we find now are many religious organizations, political organizations, and even educational institutions offering more and more de-escalation trainings and bystander intervention trainings, so that people are beginning to be skilled up in at least the rudimentary skills we need to be able to go out and make the streets safe for everybody.
So if demonstrations begin again in large scale because of either what is happening in Philadelphia today, or government failing to reform policing and militarization of policing, or it happens because of elections. If tomorrow there is a march I'm part of, and armed militias showed up there, what am I supposed to do? Close my shop and go home?
So if you don't have a peace team out there, then people have to act as individual bystander intervention actionists, or they need to be able to do de-escalation. Or, as you say, if it gets too dangerous, one of the things that Dr. King introduced into his code of behavior is one that I've been part of when I've constructed a code when I do organizing, is to say, we will not run. If we are going to retreat, we do it in an orderly fashion so that everybody walks away without. The last thing you want to do is prompt or trigger the sort of predator-prey relationship that can happen. And once that is triggered, you can get what Dr. Slutkin would call the contagious violence. So all of a sudden, you have one member of the Proud Boys opening up with gunfire and then 10 more open up. So if people run away, if they need to retreat, they need to retreat. And that is perfectly reasonable to do if you're not safe. I think we're entering a period where we can count on not feeling comfortable. That's okay. We do a lot of learning and advancing when we're in our zone of discomfort. But if you're feeling unsafe, that's different. Organize a retreat with dignity and one that does not trigger that response where you get attacked.
So okay, so this particular, is there anyone who has written, for example, the codes which you mentioned, not code, but the code of conduct by Dr. King, is it published, available somewhere?
Well, it's actually in his, I think, second book, Stride Toward Freedom, I think. But this is, very, very old now. But if you, I think simply Google Dr. King's Nonviolent Code of Conduct, you could probably come up with it. And certainly I'm very happy to share any of that information with anybody who wants to get in touch with me. You can do it through Portland State University. My last name is Hastings, and the university's email is pdx.edu. And so I'm just Hastings at pdx.edu. I'm very happy to send out any information that might help.
Sure. And you also have Oregon Peace Institute, which offers training of de-escalation. Are there, okay, so one scenario is militia showing up and how you deal with them. We discussed that, how that you try to deal with them, how you try to enter the dialogue, and got your business card thrown on the floor. Did you pick up your business card or you left it there?
No, I picked it up.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I would have done the same thing. But what about police? Is police worth talking to? Because some people have given up. Police are human beings who are being paid through our tax money. And a high level of dehumanization probably is bad for their psychic and how they react to things. What type of nonviolence training police has?
Oh, well, theirs is different. I teach basically de-escalation in workshops, but also in units in classes that I teach. But it's very different from the way that the police are taught that. It's commonly called verbal judo. And when a member of the police force shows up and tries to de-escalate something, we have to remember that they are wearing a visible weapon, a deadly weapon. And that changes the emotional content of any kind of transaction that's going on. So it's a very different approach. So they get a little bit of training, much more training, and how to shoot people. But they get a little bit of this, at least in Oregon. I'm not sure what they get nationwide, but it's inadequate, and it's very different from what we do on the peace team. For one thing, we ask questions. We want people to understand whether they are on, quote, our side or if they're alt-right. We want them to understand that we're interested in what they have to say. On the other hand, when a member of the police force starts asking questions, that feels like an interrogation to people. And that can even cause worse escalation and panic. And what we see, it's tragic. How often police so-called de-escalation just goes wrong and people get shot. I mean, one version of it just happened in Philadelphia. As I mentioned earlier, now you have Philly in an uprising again, and rightfully so. You have a guy wave a knife, and he's going through an episode that his family said was part of his bipolar, and the family called for an ambulance, and instead the police show up. Instead of the medical worker or any kind of trained EMT being able to de-escalate, which they are very well trained to do, the police then shot him dead. So this is one of the reasons I really want police to stay away. I think the community wants the same thing.
Yes, this is now police is going to be out there during elections, after elections, protest, and their level of there is a higher level of anxiety on their side. And I heard that in some places, police officers, whoever can, are resigning from their position. They probably will have difficulty in recruiting, while they need to recruit more, diversify more, and train better. Why Peacemakers does not come up with a training which is specifically designed for police officer?
We have offered that, and as of yet, we have not been taken up on that. Including when our campus armed the police on campus and became an official police department. A colleague in my department and I came up with a series of trainings exactly as you are talking about, and that was refused. So it is a pity that proven methods don't seem to be even considered, legitimately considered when they're offered. One of the things I want to mention, though, is the unofficial.
Before you go there, is it because the impression of the Peacemakers is that they are leftist, way left to the center, and these people are anti-police, and they actually are rebels disguised as peacemakers? Is it some because of the branding you have? And if that could be correct, what about some people in peacemaking team rebrand themselves to recruit some of those people who are not perceived as the right-wing people? Because I think life is precious to all people, whether they are left-wing or right-wing. All of them have families, all of them have loved ones, all of them are, their instinct is to save lives. That's God has built into our bodies to react to save lives. So why we cannot find some, say, some influencers and some people who have right-wing ideology, meaning they are conservative, they are, they have a whole social media, social issues, they may be on the right of the center and things like that. And some group comes into being which have a different branding than anti-war peaceniks.
Well, since everything that we do is about nonviolence, it's hard to avoid being known as peaceniks because all of us are. But you're absolutely right, and what we've been able to do on an individual basis, on a relational basis, is the Portland police with whom we work actually trust us. The alt-right with whom we work, in the sense that we will interpose so that they don't get hurt. They trust us. So that trust is built. But when you have parties who want things to jump off, that would be Antifa, and that would be sometimes some of the people on the far right. When they want that violent conflict to happen, or they want to be able to attack police, for example, they don't trust us. So I'm actually, excuse me, I'm sorry. This kind of messaging and trust can only happen when relationships are built, and it's a long process.
That is the good word. Relationship need to be developed before you need them. Well, thank you so much. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and thank you so much, Professor Tom Hastings, for being with us. And thank you, Sherdil Khan and Dr. Abdul Wahid, for producing today's show. You're watching Muslim Network TV on Galaxy 19 satellite, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, and Roku. We'll be right back. Well, thank you so much. Stay tuned for more programming right here. Peace.
Thank you. Peace. Thank you.